Tell us about fearless presence.
So this topic, I love this topic because this is the next level, men. This is the next level for men. Mm-hmm. It really is. Opening as a loving man, coupled with fearless presence, which is in itself is kind of intertwined, of course, but this is next level definitely for men who want to attract the feminine, as far as like if a woman has a feminine sexual essence, which is like, this is like most of women. So if you want to be able to do that, it requires if you want to attract that part out of a woman, the part of her that's just completely submitted to you, the part of her that's complete full of love and the part of her that really wants you to remain still while she can be wherever she wants to be. Mm-hmm. It's fearless presence. And fearless presence is really,
sorry, I'm just trying to get my water.
Being so there with the girl, mm-hmm. having your full attention on her without any kind of resistance to it. It's literally focusing 100% of your attention on the woman without obstruction. That's what it is. It's nothing is going to deter you away from your attention with her. And why do I say it like that? Is because fearless presence is met with deep feminine radiance. That's its opposite. So you pull the part of a woman that's deeply feminine out of her when you're fearlessly present. Fearlessly present means that you're holding a space around her, so to speak, and with her, that she will feel such. It will move her at from her deepest level. It will move her because she can feel that you're not going anywhere. You're not moved. You're like a rock, and she can be whatever storm she wants. So will make a woman drawn to you. Any feminine woman. If you're like this with any woman you talk to and she's feminine in your presence, she will be attracted to you. In that sense, she won't fuck you or suck your dick. That's what, but she will. Some of them won't. But she will be drawn to you though, because you are her opposite. You can pull that part out of women as well. You can pull it out of women. Some women, they walk around yearning to be opened further by a guy that's like that, and they won't settle for a guy unless he's like that, which is the women that we call the fucking high quality. These like these are the goddesses, so to speak. But then you can actually
go on, yeah.
You can actually pull that out of women as well. So it doesn't have to be a woman that's just walking around like that. You can also pull that out of women who don't even know that that's even out there.
Totally, man. Happens all the time. Yep. And I think that's important to acknowledge too, like that. Just the same as there's dudes out there pretending to be alpha, or like you see it in the spiritual community as well. Like there's guys that are pretending to be open men, like they've studied David Yater and they've studied some tantra, so they put on this kind of like mask of spiritual presence and stuff. But you can kind of tell it's not real. Like their integrity's not there, and they don't really have any there's nothing behind it. Like if you poke them, they're very vulnerable on the surface, and it can oftentimes be the same with the feminine expression of that too, of like that kind of I'm a goddess, I'm empowered kind of thing, but at the same time, it's like a false kind of front. So, and I just want to acknowledge to guys out there that like when you're looking for a goddess, she doesn't have to be, I don't know, she doesn't have to look like necessarily like some kind of picture of a goddess. Like goddesses can be anywhere, and they can show up when you least expect it. You know what I mean? They could be, the girl that works at the corner store, and when you have that click, and like you said, like because you're open and she's open, and that resonance starts firing, it's like there's like a magic that literally happens in that space. And I've had it happen so many times with girls. Like when we have that vibe together and the magic's happening, they just say to me like, I don't know what it is, but you bring this thing out of me. And I'll say to them too, like, you're so like gorgeously, radiantly feminine. Like I can't help but just completely adore you and want to give you 100% presence, because you're just the most amazing thing that I could look at and be connected with in my environment right now. And they say in reciprocation to that, well, I don't know what it is, but I feel like I have to be radiant and strong around you in terms of my femininity. Like you draw that sexiness out of me because, there's something that happens in that dynamic. So I think every guy has that capacity within him. He just needs to recognize that principles and the alignment inside himself, and then come back into, what that really represents to him, and bring that into his relationships.
Yes. And when you were talking about her talking about you pulling that out of her, that's she's done really well with not closing to that, because it's scary too. It's scary too because
Totally.
She's coming out from the deepest part of herself, so it's really scary because it's actually the reason why it's so scary. It's actually scary, but at the same time for a woman, it's comforting because she can pull that part out of herself only because she trusts you. That's why.
I was going to say, as a man, that's right. As a man, my responsibility is to maintain that safety, that space of safety and structure and support, so that it's okay for her to come into that, especially when it comes to sex and intimacy. You know what I mean? Like there's oftentimes so much wounding and fear and shame around women's sexuality, particularly if you're dating like younger women, for example, or it goes across the board because older women, of course, sometimes have a lot of damage as well from previous relationships and things. But yeah, definitely, like the more you can hold that space and be cool with really honoring what's actually happening in that dynamic, for sure, man, that's when the power levels go right up.
Sure is. And fearless presence is it's terrifying for a man too, because and when you're fearlessly present with a woman, you're being transparent. You're showing her everything at once, so to speak. And she can see right through you. When a woman can see through you, she can sense that you're not. That's why a lot of women say men are full of bullshit, because they can't see through the man. But when a woman can see through a man, she still wants to know that he's not full of bullshit. That's why I say fearlessly present, because sometimes she'll do things and maybe to see are you what you're showing her, which is what we call testing, of course.
All the time. Yep. Yeah. And I think when sorry, go on.
And when she can tell that, when she can feel, not tell, but when she can feel that no matter what she does, you're not moved, that's how she know you're the real deal. So.
That's right. And of course, there's moments where you'll lose that for particular reasons and you'll need to go into recovery. But I think the thing that you pointed out, which is important, is that especially when you first start going into these open states and recognizing what they are and how to operate, that's the scariest time, like the initial training phase. And that's not to say that you're going to hit a point where you're always open and everything's always perfect and you're always like amazing. But you do definitely, like I said before, like develop a relationship of trust with your openness. You start to almost like, it's like having like a magical power that you can kind of rely on more and more. It's like a fallback state of consciousness, a kind of open state. And another thing, just quickly, like that's what a lot of mindfulness and focused meditation will start to open you to being more capable of having faith and trust with that as well. So that's an important component to recognize. But I also recognize that that in that process of opening and becoming confident in the opening, that's something that will definitely improve over time, and you'll have more and more mechanisms. And ideally, if you've got an open mind and you're disciplined and you want to learn heaps of cool stuff, you will find multiple models to be able to work with your openness and to trust your openness and to reinforce your openness until it basically becomes like a kind of autopilot program that's helping you along the way, even though, and that can also mean that bigger challenges may even come into your life because you're actually operating at a higher frequency. But with the bigger challenges comes great power. It's like the Spider-Man thing, with great power comes great responsibility. So as you increase your power to be open and move and have the kinds of things that you really want and desire in your world, and also to have the influence and connection with the world that is really important, then of course you're going to have to face larger levels of inertia, larger complexities of issues, larger challenges that will show up. But at the same time, to the degree that those challenges show up, then that's always a reflection of your capability to solve them. You know what I mean? We don't get problems that we're not ready to deal with. So for whatever reason, you know, I mean, I think that's a bit of a throwaway comment that some people be like, oh, but children don't decide to get bashed. But it's like, yeah, I understand that. But at the same time, the situations and circumstances that human beings have in their lives are always the ground and the foundation for the refinement and the strengthening of their character if they choose to align themselves to that path, and if they're lucky enough to receive the support and alignment to really make that happen. And I also want to reiterate your point about, yeah, of course, it's really healthy and natural for women to challenge that process inside a guy, and in a way, it can become fun and playful, and in a way, that's kind of what flirting is often like. It's like it's a little bit of it's like that wrestling thing again. You know, I mean, it's a little bit of back and forth challenge, but really, what's happening is a little bit of pinging to see like what's going on with the energy here. And then, you know, if the energy's clean and the connection's good, then, you know, the tension will just keep ramping up. But I also want to reiterate one more point too is, for guys, like, don't fall into the trap of thinking you need to be perfect and open all the time. And don't fall into the trap of being really hard on yourself if you get tested in some situation with a girl and you for whatever reason aren't able to match that test. Because it's also very natural and normal in the progression of evolution as a man that you're going to meet women that are at slightly higher levels of sophistication in different areas, or they sometimes have nasty dark sides and they have manipulative tendencies and they try to play things out on guys because they're trying to get, you know, senses of significance or something out of the process for themselves. So don't take that stuff personally. Just recognize it's like, okay, I closed off. And that's kind of like, it's like be a man about it. You know, be a man about the fact you closed off and go like, cool, I closed off, I acknowledge it. I'm still going to be cool, and I'm going to now allow myself to open, you know, as soon as possible when I'm ready to do that. And I'm going to take the feedback of the lesson into my consciousness so that I can become stronger and more capable of being open and holding a higher frequency and amplitude of openness in future experiences. So then you're cultivating this experience where there is basically nothing that exists in your experience that isn't feedback to start to make you more open. You start to develop a reciprocal relationship with the nature of reality, which we were talking about before is the feminine. So it's literally like you're having a relationship with everything in your experience, which is the feminine, in contrast to your masculine center and core and awareness. And then you create this feedback loop, which starts to accelerate evolution. And then if you practice it, you'll get to a point where you'll be filtering for it all the time. You'll be like, how is this making me stronger? How can I reframe this into a meaningful interaction that helps me move forward to become more open, to be connected with my passion and my purpose and my higher drive? And that's the thing that you talked about in women. Like, women sometimes are poking men to test their integrity on those levels, to see if I poke him, does he collapse? And if he collapses, then I probably can't trust him to provide the genes for my future children and protect me. So I better make sure that's okay, you know? So I think, you know, it's good to just keep all that stuff into perspective and remember that this is an evolution. And the more comfortable you get with the opening and closing and the journey of progression along the path to building that higher framework of being okay, being open, and trusting and having faith in what that really means, then the more you more you see the perspective of that process, the easier it will become. And I know same thing with guys in field. You know what I mean? Like when we take guys out, one of the primary things I try to tune them into when they're out there growing and learning is to try and almost like teleport themselves into the future and connect to the part of themselves that's already open and sees the big picture of this whole process. So they're already experiencing the rewards and the perspectives of what it's like to have gone through the struggle and received the reward. So then it's almost like they're looking back from the future, experiencing the higher level of consciousness, and that makes it a lot easier when they're out on the street and they're feeling what they would call anxiety or, you know, or fear or embarrassment or whatever. Because really what they're actually experiencing is the growing pains of becoming open. They're experiencing the growing pains of becoming an authentic, transparent man. And they need to just keep reinforcing those positive structures around themselves and keep reinforcing that relationship of trust and keep working with those practices of mindfulness, felt sense, openness, using very positive neuro-linguistic programs, like drawing positive resources, positive memories, setting positive intentions, all that good stuff, which I would love to unpack with you in future calls as well. And obviously that's totally what we do in our sessions as well. I mean, if guys sign up for Skype sessions, this is exactly the stuff we go straight into in, very practical, personalized terms. So I think that's really important to acknowledge all those things. And one last point, because I wanted to throw it in before, but I forgot because I want to chuck in as much value as possible, is another very simple practice that guys can start to access to work with this openness and to build mindfulness and to start to activate a lot of these principles of integrity within themselves is centering. So coming back into the center of themselves and understanding what the principle of centering and alignment really represents. So and we teach this in our courses too, but like in the martial traditions, in the meditative traditions, in some of the performance art traditions, there's a strong reoccurring theme of centering, and they often will teach that the point of maximal focus to be centered in the body is below the belly button. So 1 inch below the belly button and 1 inch inside the belly. So just by simply taking the mind from here and just being like, blah, 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 all these concepts and ideas and the loops and the neurotic stuff that goes on our heads, and then just doing that felt sense thing of like, I'm going to move my mind and my feeling into my belly, and I'm going to just sit in that space, and I'm going to use that as another reference point of feeling. So even though my mind's still going on and everything's still going on, I've also got a part of my awareness that I've diverted to be operating in my center, and I'm basically building a center in that process. And same as this, building that higher sort of structure and the trust and the faith, by practicing the process of intention of being in the center, and you can connect it to the breath, which you had a really good one. So you can practice like imagining opening and being vulnerable in the front of your body, and then you can also, if you want to add a little bit more technical level to that, then connect that to the center and start creating little anchors and loops in your head of like, every time I breathe, I feel my center, and every time I feel my center, I open, and every time I open, I reflect back to my center the openness that I'm feeling. So there's like this, it's like this very powerful feedback loop, and then as that starts operating, when new experiences come into your field as the operator, then you have a different kind of reference, and you'll very quickly start to train yourself and realize and learn that when I'm open and I'm operating this stuff and it's working, I tend to have a response of calmness, peace, resourcefulness. I tend to be more relaxed. I tend to have like a more flexibility of mind and a more relaxed sort of ability to be non-reactive and to create from spontaneity and to things like you said, thinking, what do I need to say and all that stuff. It's often manifestations of block and shutdown. Whereas when you're in the flow, it's like things just come in and you just trust. It's like, even though I don't know what to say this second, in 2 seconds when I stop her, I'm going to know what to say. And then sure enough, it starts coming in. And it does take a bit of training, and there might be a few times of like, and collapse, and they're like awkward moments, and she walks away and you'll kind of walk around scratching your head going, oh, I look like a dickhead. But recognize that that's kind of part of the process too. Then come back to center, open up, recalibrate, and then even maybe go and re-engage her, for example, and say like, then try again. Or, or just go, okay, it's water off a duck's back. That was a learning lesson. I'll receive that. Once again, as a beautiful, powerful lesson, in a way, she was still a teacher. I mean, she was still an opportunity to reflect your masculine back to you, even if it was just 2 seconds of not even engaging with her. It's all feedback to grow and to learn and to become a more powerful man. So lock in with that center, breathe in that center more consistently. You can look up things like Dantian meditation or centering practices. There's lots of different stuff out there that will help you get on that path. Or talk to me, send me an email, engage me in a process, or you can talk to Tony because he knows a bunch of other practices in different ways as well that are really useful for you. And these are the tools. These are the kinds of felt sense experiences and language that guys out there need to start learning and understanding so they have a context to even operate of what is this thing called love? What is this thing called presence? What is this thing called like masculine and feminine, the dynamics and the polarities and all that stuff? all of this high level technology will come online when you start using your technology inside yourself.
Mm. Yeah, and to just wrap up for me, the last thing that I want to say is, when it comes to be fearlessly present with a woman, it's even to the extent where you will walk away from her. This is fearless presence, because when you're fearlessly there with a woman, you can fearlessly look at her and with integrity tell her what it is that you need to tell her, even if it's not good information, even if it's something she might not like.
Absolutely.
Even whether it's love or whatever it may be, she'll feel the complete power of it because you're fearlessly present.
Absolutely.
But a man who's saying something to a woman in a way that's a little bit hesitant, he's like a little bit, reserved in the way that he's saying it. She's like, what do you want to say? That's actually what a woman wants to tell a man. Like, what do you want to say? Like, be clear with me. So when a man is fearlessly there with a woman, she can feel the range of everything that he's saying to her. She'll feel the range of the emotion that's behind it that he's even projecting to her. You project emotion through when you're fearlessly present with somebody. You can project your emotion clearly to them, through them.
Absolutely.
So let's say a girl's, she's behaving the way you don't like, and you say, you know what, when you act like this, I don't like it. You constantly did this, don't do it again, or if you do, you won't see me again. That's the truth. And if you can say that, though, fearlessly say that, she'll feel the power of everything you just said. She'll have a choice. She literally will. She'll shift and say, okay, and she'll become really, really adamant about not doing it. Or she'll see the kinks in it, like, oh, he's just saying that. You know what? I'll poke at him again, like that. Literally, because a girl will always poke at where you're the weakest. Women poke at where you're the weakest. They don't poke at your strength part. They poke at the parts of yourself that are the weakest. So, remaining fearlessly present with a woman is showing her that, although, even if you're a man who's learning how to center and all these things, and you don't feel like you have a lot of strength in you, whatever it may be, if through all of that you can just remain there, don't walk away, just remain fearlessly present with her, even when you feel like you want to close, even when you feel like you're not strong enough, even when you feel like she's stronger than you, remain fearlessly there, because in that remaining there, that will make you grow. That will be your growth. That's your next level.
That's it, man. Yeah, I love
that's
that.
what I wanted to wrap up with, as far as
I love it.
presence.
Yeah, 100% gold. And just like to hit back on that as well. Just one final point before we wrap up is that idea of like, when you're in your presence and you're in your integrity. Even if that means that everything's falling to pieces sometimes, you know what I mean? Sometimes there's really hard times in relationships with people. Sometimes you've got to be really direct and honest about things that either are not working, or that something that was a deal breaker happened. Either you did something wrong or they did something wrong, and there needs to be like an acknowledgement and a cleaning of the tension in the situation by being honest and being in your presence. And that may mean that there could be negative consequences, for sure. She might get angry. You might have a fight. She might shame you. She might get angry at you. She might go through a process. But you've got to recognize that it's always better to stand in your integrity and to be honest from that place. Even if sometimes it means death, you know what I mean? And I don't mean like literal death, because it's kind of rare. Hopefully guys aren't going to get killed. But I mean, like, the death of the image of yourself, the death of your egoic tower of ideas, because in the short term, you might save yourself some drama by not being honest and not being in your integrity, and you might keep on playing out a pattern for a period of time. But over time, the pain and the separation and the fear that breeds in that space has a consequence. It has a price to pay, and eventually it's going to collapse back into your life, and you're going to have to deal with it in a way that is going to be nasty. So the more direct and more clear and the more straight up you can be, the cleaner your life gets. And that's what we teach guys. I mean, a lot of people out there in the world are very challenged by ideas like, oh, how can you have multiple relationships? Or are you just like players? You just use women. You just manipulate women. Actually, it's not true. What we really do is we're just really honest, integrated men, and we go out and we help empower women. We help guys be honest and have integrity about how they're operating, so they can attract women that have a reciprocal, reflective desire to share those kinds of experiences and relationships with men. And if it's not healthy, to have the honesty and integrity to work out what's going on and either clarify and create an arrangement that works, or to move the relationship to a different level, whether it be friends or even just move apart because it's not appropriate, because neither party wants to waste their time or compromise on things that are not true to their nature. And I also wanted to, this is a really major point as well, because I think every guy will come to this point at some stage, especially if he really engages, in these practices and things, that you will hit points in your life where you will be very strongly challenged. Whether you may be in a long-term relationship and the whole thing collapses, or you may have a group of people that were very close to you conspire against you on some level and turn against you and manipulate you or do something that was very, obviously out of alignment. And in those times, there can be very traumatic periods in people's lives, like recovering from breakups and recovering from betrayals and recovering from heartbreaks is some of the hardest stuff that we've got to deal with as human beings. But I can tell you that one of the saving graces in that whole process is to fortify and stand in your integrity and your principles despite that. It's the same technology. It's to still maintain openness, to still be aiming for that higher purpose. Even though, there's been times in my life that I've gone through, I've been so collapsed and so depressed from circumstances that were so hard that I could barely open. But I still knew in the back of my mind that at the end of the day, all that really matters is that I still have that higher vision of opening. And even if I went a day or a week or a month still being closed, I knew in the back of my mind that my principles and integrity and my desire and my higher aim and mission and purpose is still to open and to operate as an open person. So when the time was right and the power came back, the openness started to return. But what I've also realized through my experience, and this goes, all guys should listen to this, that when you close, that can be learning too. In your closeness, in your depression, in your darkness, in your fear, in your doubt, in your uncertainty, in your humiliation, there are resources in those places as well. And it's not about choosing to revel in them and be stuck in them, not at all. Of course, we don't want to be stuck in those things longer than we have to be. At the same time, it's acknowledging that they're a natural part of a cycle of evolution, just the same as, like a piece of fruit goes from, growing on the tree and being a healthy piece of fruit to ripening and then falling and then decaying and then becoming, getting eaten by different insects and things and then slowly turning into like a decayed, rotten thing that then goes back into a cycle that eventually provides nutrients for roots to then grow new fruit. So there's always these cycles of things. But just the same as in nature, the reason that those cycles maintain themselves and the reason that there's new fruit one day, the reason that the sun keeps coming up another day, the reason that things keep cycling around is because of these principles that exist within nature. So when you align yourself to those principles, principles of love, principles of openness, principles of mindfulness and awareness, principles of integrity that really open you up to being what you are, your true nature, then a lot of this stuff that most people battle with will start flowing off your back like water off a duck's back. And most of the dramas that people operate in, I see this a lot, and this is a big point as well, a lot of people in the world love drama. They love to blame, they love to hate, they love to project, they love to create tensions and stories with themselves and to do with other people for different reasons. And there's, hierarchies of significance and projections and, and jealousies and, all kinds of nasty things that get thrown around by people. But I see as a reoccurring theme that the people that play into those kinds of behaviors and have those kinds of relationships of conflict with the world generally, if not always, have very poor or completely lacking relationships of integrity with themselves in their principles. So the more you connect with your higher purpose and principles of higher meaning, the side effect will be you become a more pleasant, peaceful, happy, and attractive person. And drama will just it's almost it's kind of weird, but it's like you start having a magic bulletproof shield where drama just doesn't really come into your field. But when it does, it tends to not stick. It just kind of goes, moves through, and you're like, wow, that was interesting. So that's my last message for guys out there is stand in your integrity, apply yourself to these principles, develop a code of honor and warriorship inside yourself to be a loving and powerful man and evolve yourself for the betterment of everyone on this planet, and go and find some beautiful, radiant women to share that with, because they're out there and they're crying for it. They're like, where are all the good men? I'm so fucking tired of fucking this bullshit. And the more we stand up as men, and the more we own our integrity and power, the better world it's going to be for everyone. Everything's going to start to get better and better. And I don't know about you guys out there, but personally, I don't want to live in a big hive mind jail cell. I want to live in a massive party where everyone's having a good time and loving each other. So that's the choice we've all got to make as individuals over which camp we want to apply. Do we want to live in fear, or do we want to live in love? So I want to thank everybody for listening and watching this stuff. We've gone over time, but as always, we've just so backed up with value, we can't help but just pour it into the space. I look forward to having more chats with Tony, because we vibe off each other really well, and there's a lot of stuff I know we can unpack and keep talking about, so stay tuned. And just another quick thing, there's a new product that we've just released. I've just put up a sensual massage and sensual massage lover product, which is a great product for guys to move into felt sense experience and to start to become more sensual, get their hands on women. Another really great doorway and skill into openness and presence is massage and body work. So check that out by all means. That's coming out very soon. Yeah, that'll be on the Natural Lifestyles website. And other than that, I'll turn it over to you, Tony, to say your thanks and goodbyes.
Yeah, man, I just want to thank you for having me, of course, like always, because higher level conversations and things like that is something that I tend toward. And me being filled with so much value and so much value that I want to give, this is a great opportunity for me to do it. And I want to thank all you guys for tuning in and being able to just sit through it and take yourself to a higher level within. These are higher level concepts that you're going to hit at some point. These things we talked about, if you talk to women and if you live, which you're all living now, you will come into contact with. So take what we said into consideration very deeply. And the other thing I want to say is, if you walk around with, as far as women, be what women want, not what they fear. That's one thing that I live by. I'm something that women want, not what they fear. Women fear men who are who lack purpose, who can't really take them deep into their love, who won't understand them, who just want one thing from them. There's nothing wrong with wanting to fuck a girl, but it's something else when you just want just sex and not her. So be the other side of what women want. What women really want is to go deep. So be that man that's opening the world to love constantly. Be the man that is learning consistently about himself. And through that process, learn how to stay fearlessly present with women. And that's how you're going to bring out the part of herself that she really wants, which is that actually it's that little girl who just wants to be loved.
So much gold there. So much gold. So, yeah, thanks, gentlemen. Make sure you subscribe. Like I said, plenty more coming from this source. And until next time, have many happy adventures and keep rocking the love.
Peace.
Peace out, yo.
Thanks for watching the video. If you're interested in learning more about Inner Game and the Inner Game coaching work that I do, please click subscribe and sign up for an inquiry form, and I'll personally get in contact with you to tell you more about the work that I do. Alternatively, you can go to innergamelifecoaching.com and check out my site there. I have a great range of audios available, as well as some general information that will help you understand the process. See you guys in the next video. Good luck, and may all your dreams come true.